Morning. This is David Rizza with Rogers Gardens, and Happy New Year, everybody. It's good that we're starting a new year. We go into, I love this time of year because we shift out of a lot of the holiday stuff, and now we're into the gardening again. So this is what I love. It's been cold, it's been damp, we've been getting some good rain. And so now it's really January. I always think of more cleaning up the garden, pruning the garden, getting the garden ready for spring, And so today I'm going to go over more pruning and what to do versus planting. I will go through like what I'm planting, vegetables and annuals and perennials, and some of the new stuff that we got in. We got in our early season roses, which are potted up bare root roses in 5 gallons. So we got those we have those in. We got some bare root strawberries. So I'll go in detail with more of those, and I'll talk a little bit behind me. I brought a couple roses and some fruit trees, and just basics of pruning and dormancy sprays. But first, I always go through the vegetables first, and this is the time of year to think about doing a second crop of your winter vegetable garden. So I always will get people in, like, really to try to do a second, because sometimes they'll start waiting for the spring vegetables to come, and it's still going to be too cold in this month, and next month it's still going to be too cold. I don't think about the spring stuff until more into March and more into April, mid-March, mid-April. So I'm going to start now, and if you guys have any questions, you can save your questions for last, and then I'll answer them. But it's really, right now, you can still really do a lot. So right now, I'm still doing all my greens, all my lettuces. So do your lettuces like now. I love this mix. It has royal oak leaf in it. Love this mix. This is called baby oak leaf mix. And that's a good one. You're planting your arugula right now. Arugula loves cold weather. Don't plant it in midsummer in June or July. It's just going to bolt. But I do like one called Astro, and I'll show you the seeds in a minute. I like these mixes. So these are like a spicy mix, or they have Mizuna in here. They have bok choy. They have a red Russian kale. So those are a good mix. All your lettuces again. Romaine is good right now. Swiss chard. We've been really low on Swiss chard. Swiss chard really sells out quick. So I got bright lights in now in the little color packs. Those are nice. And this is the time of year to do a second crop of cauliflower. If you've harvested your cauliflower by now, do a second planting, because then you'll get this probably in about March or mid-March. So this one's called cheddar, which is like a gold variety, but I'll do snowball, I'll do skywalker, I'll do all of them. So do a second crop, and you can still plant your broccoli right now. I put some on the ground down here. Oh, another thing that I got that we haven't had in a while is the broccoli rabe, or the rapinii. Oh, the sprouting broccoli is so good. When you do harvest this, though, you don't want to let it flower, and you keep cutting those shoots because it will come along. And then I got some really good marathon broccoli. If you guys have a problem with the caterpillars attacking your cabbage and your kale and your broccoli, I use an organic spray, and I forgot to bring it with me, but it's called BT, Bacillus thuringiensis, that only goes after the caterpillars. So if you're having the cabbage worms or the cabbage loopers, use the BT, because they'll munch and munch and munch. And another thing that I know, with all the moisture, we've been getting more of the snails and the pill bugs and the slugs. So this is when I always use Sluggo Plus, because I have a problem with pill bugs and they just maul my broccoli. So Sluggo Plus, it's just a little pellet, and I spread it around the garden right now and just let it, so it works for the pill bugs, the snails, and the slugs. And so peas too. Now is a good time to do your edible peas. This is Oregon Giant. So this is a giant snow pea. You're going to do sugar snaps. You're going to do shelling peas. Always do a little trellis. It's about 4 to 6 feet tall. I keep my trellises really simple. I make a trellis out of bird netting. So I take this bird netting. This one is 7 by 14, and it's just regular utility netting. And what I do is I take 2 bamboo stakes about 6 feet apart, and then I just use zip ties, and I spread this across, and I make it about 6 feet tall. But zip tie about 3 or 4 of them, and then pull it tight, and then zip tie on the other side. And I don't even cut them, because sometimes if I want it to be 7, I just fold it in half and just make it tight, because peas have really small tendrils, and the tendrils are how they climb. So if the thing is too thick, they won't climb it. Even if you have a wrought iron fence, same thing. Just grab a bag of the utility netting, and this is 7 by 14, and that's more than enough. So that's a good one to use for climbing peas. And so talk about seeds really quick. I do a lot of seeds. I don't know if you guys ever see me on Instagram or follow me. I'm aka Plant Geek. I'm shameless plug. But I always do a lot of seeds in my garden. And I know a lot of people are scared to do seeds. Seeds are easy because we have the moisture right now and the rain. And so one thing I think people make the mistake with seeds is they put the seeds too deep. They put it too shallow. They put them, and you got to watch your sun too. So right now I'm gonna show you everything I'm doing with seeds at home. This is one of my favorite gourmet baby greens. I love this lettuce mix because this has a little gem romaine. It has some of the red oak leaves, the green oak leaves, the black seeded Simpsons. I love this because I can use it as a cut and come again, so I can keep trimming it. This one is new red fire, which is a really good romaine. Love this one. These are botanical interests, and I love botanical interests because I get good germination. This is your regular Paris Cos, good one to do. Favorite, arugula. I love Astro. And now I'm going to start cutting it back. And again, what I do with this is I do a cut and come again. The little dwarf bok choy that's white, this is called Choco, the baby bok choy. I love that one. If you can't find celery or I love dinosaur kale too. If you can't find celery, dinosaur kale, or chard, do the seeds. This one I just seeded 5-colored silver beet, which is a really good multicolor chard. Love that. I love the Utah giant celery. Love that. And then I love the lacinato or the dinosaur kale. We've had a hard time getting this year because it's so popular. Everybody buys it up. Just plant the seeds directly in your garden. Another thing that I do a lot is I see a lot of people buying transplants of carrots and beets and radishes. If you want the best carrots and beets and radishes, do seeds. Don't do transplants. So I picked some of my favorite carrots that I like. I like the rainbow mix. That's Calliope blend, which is a good mix of the rainbows. I like the red chard chutneys. These work good if your soil's heavy. The Denver longs are good. So the thing about carrots, plant them right now. Do seeds right now. They're very slow to germinate. They can take 2 weeks or so. So very, very slow to germinate. But just be patient with them and they will come up. Moving on, radishes. I like the little Rudolph, which is a spicy radish. I love the French breakfast. This is one that's more sweeter. So these radishes come up quick. Oh, we're talking like 25, 35, 40 days. Very fast to germinate, very fast to grow. Carrots will take about 75 to 90 days, 95, because you have to take in their slow germination. So that's one thing. Beets are another one. I didn't grab that many beets, but I like the touch tone golds. I like the early wonders. And I like all the Italian beets, like the mixed Chioggas. But one of the things too with this early wonder, this is a good juicing beet. If you guys juice, where the gold ones are good roasting, so that's a thing. And they're sort of slow to germinate too. They're like carrots. They could take about 10 to 15 days, which is about almost 2 weeks. So slow to germinate, but worth it. I do a lot of spinach from seed. I love fresh spinach. But I'm not a big fan of Bloomsdale. We always get Bloomsdale from all the growers, and that's that Savoy, the real crinkly. I don't like that. I like the little baby spinach. So Oceanside is a good one. Matador is a good one. Lavua is a really good one. And there's so many more. There's, what's the other one I use a lot? It's called Space. I use Space. There's a giant French variety of spinach. It's really good, but again, once they come up, you just keep cutting them and cutting them. And so yeah, and they can get downy mildew, so I do like the ones that are sort of resistant against downy mildew because it will show up this time of year because we're so damp and cool. So watch for that. And then even more with the peas, again, sugar snaps. I do all of them, but you know, I do like to get at least a 4-foot trellis, like I was saying with earlier, is just let them climb. Put them in a lot of sun though. That's very important for peas. But do the sugar snaps, do the shelling, do all of them. Your another good turnip that's really good that people don't know about is the Japanese salad turnip. This is called Tokyo Cross. This is a good one. White and real mild flavor. My one of my coworkers is trying to make faces. I'm not. It's not working, Mike. It's not working. Yeah, but going back to not breaking my concentration. Another thing that do collard greens. Collards love it when it's cooler. So collard greens. I didn't bring, but they're good if you can't find them. Some of the other flowers I like too. I don't bring up a lot of flower seeds, but you can do calendulas right now. Calendulas, the pot marigolds, they're good right now. Shifting gears, herbs. You can do herbs right now. Herbs are going to be more, you're really not going to do basil and some of the other ones are like warmer weather. Dill can be even really finicky right now, but do your perennials. So like I'm doing fennel right now. Fennel I can do. Fennel will bulb out in the spring. I can do my sages, like my officinalis and all the other, the chef's choice. And I love the Spice Island rosemary. That's great. I love the thyme. My favorite variety of thyme is English thyme. So when you buy dried thyme, it's English. So one of my favorites. And again, parsley. I love the Italian Giant. This is one of my favorite varieties, and I cut parsley. I use a lot of cilantro. You can do the seeds or the plants. Just keep cutting them. I do French sorrel right now. Likes cooler weather. I can do the Mexican oregano right now. I love this oregano for putting on pizzas. I make a lot of pizzas and I make my own dough. And oh, I love that oregano. And one thing to keep in mind with a lot of these vegetables, you still want to try to get them in full sun. Vegetables, herbs need 6 to 8 hours of direct sun. Fertilizing's not as bad. Sometimes I'll do the down-to-earth all-purpose, and I'll mix in my Malibu compost, and I'll mix in my worm castings. But one thing I've been doing lately, because I live on the border of Fountain Valley and Santa Ana, so it's pretty heavy clay. I've been bringing in a soil. I usually use like a top soil that's a little sandy, and so that keeps that clay from binding up, and it helps the drainage because I elevated my garden up about 8 to 10 inches, and I framed it in with 2x10s, and it works great. But I found that clay, after the rains, will just solidify and get so packed because clay is fine particles that packs down. I know a lot of people always recommend gypsum, but you're better off using a little sand and maybe some pumice to try to break that clay. And even this time of year, to slow down on the compaction, don't water right now. Just let the rainwater take care of your garden. I turn my sprinklers off, and I haven't watered my vegetable garden in probably about a month and a half. The rainwater's been taken care of. If we get a storm every 2-3 weeks, that's more enough water for your garden because we're so cold and damp at night. So moving on, this is a time of year too where I start shifting gears, and I do look at some of the annuals that are going to bloom through spring. So, and biennials, but some of the annuals that will bloom through spring that I like. I love doing snapdragons. This is a tall one like this, the sonnet. So you got a pink variety, light pink, and then you got a white one. So I love the sonnets. You got the, you can still do pansies right now. You can still do your pansies. The pot marigolds, these are your calendulas. You can still do those right now. Violas you're still planting right now. I'm going to move these out of the way as I talk about them. I love phlox. A lot of people don't talk about garden phlox. This isn't the perennial phlox, but I love this because it will bloom so long, And nemesias. Love nemesias, but if nemesias ever start finishing their blooms, I just trim them. I don't go that far with these because I don't want to take off the new flowers that are coming out. So I love nemesias, and they're a fragrant little flower. You can still do your poppies. I got some down here on the ground. So the English primrose I do right now. These will bloom all the way into spring. So another good one. I love the Icelandic poppies. I know a lot of people plant them still, but these will go all the way into spring. If you plant these now, they'll go all the way into April. So a good one to put in right now. You can still do your ornamental kale, cabbage. Still do them. They'll be fine till about April. So still do those. So all your annuals, keep planting them. Going into shifting gears again. So those are some of the annuals. Again, annuals want full sun. If you have too much shade I'm going more for cyclamens or some of the primrose if you only get 3 hours of sun. Kale will handle some shade, so watch your sun, but a lot of this other stuff wants full sun. Another thing that we're going to get into is the other plants that are sort of like short-lived perennials, but you can plant them right now and they bloom through spring, like the Mona Lisa anemones. I love these. So the blues, and there's a white variety, and I love these because they look so good in front of roses, because when there's not that much blooming, these will sort of lighten up the roses. When the roses are sort of slow and they're not blooming, they're going dormant, plant underneath your roses. And then I'm getting my ranunculus too, so the ranunculus are coming in. But again, these are great plants to take you, when nothing's blooming, they'll take you into spring, and then when we start getting our spring and our other perennial stuff, they'll take you more spring into summer. So watch those. Another thing that I really plant a lot of right now are the biennials. I always plant a bunch of biennials. So I'm going to move these so they're not in the way, and let me just ship these off the table. But this is the time of year to start planting your biennials that are going to bloom through spring into even summer. And biennials are basically between an annual and a perennial. Annuals are going to bloom for the 3 or 4 months, and then they finish out their life very fast. Perennials will live longer than a year, maybe 3 years, 5 years, whatever perennial they are. Biennials usually bloom by their second year, and some of these can already be 6 months to almost a year old. Then after they're done blooming, they die, or they'll shoot side plants if you cut them back. So the biennials I'm talking about, like foxglove are a very showy biennial. And this variety is a shorter variety called Dalmatian mix, so we'll only get about 15, 20. I plant a lot of them together in groups. If you put singles, they're not as showy, but most of these flower stalks will get foot and a half, 2. There's one called Foxy Mix that will get 3 to 4, 3 to 5, so watch for those. And get them when they're not blooming. That's another thing that I see people buy, the 1 gallons when they're all blooming. Those can be almost bloomed out, so buy them little where they're not blooming. Some more really nice 4-inch. This is Foxy Dwarf. Now, Foxy Dwarf will still get a tall flower stalk, about 3 to 5 feet. But get them no blooms, because you want them to keep growing, and you want them to bloom starting in April, May, June, and then even with these delphiniums, the same way. If you get any of the delphiniums, get them when they're not blooming. Little plants are at a perfect time to keep rooting and establishing, and then they bloom later. So you get more out of your money with some of these biennials when they're not blooming yet, but then they'll bloom later on. So that's important. And this one was called Mountain Magic, or Mountain Fountains, Magic Fountains, I mean. This is a dwarf variety. They only get about 2 feet. When you get into some of the bigger ones like the Shakespeare types and the Pacific Giants and all those, they will get 3 to 5. So if you want taller delphiniums, look for some of the ones that are Pacific Giants. Those are the big ones. Okay, and so that's it with the biennials. And what I do with the biennials is make sure you can put them between your roses, make sure they get a lot of sun. I will amend the soil. I always will put in a good all-purpose fertilizer before I plant. I'm a big proponent of feeding before I plant, because that way I don't have to keep on working the fertilizer around the plant. So if I'm putting down, I can even use like a rose fertilizer. Put down about 1 pound of rose fertilizer, sprinkle it across the soil, work it in really good. I'm always using like a little shrub rake. I love these shrub rakes because as I get older, I don't want to be crawling around on my hands and knees, because then I can't get up. But I like this because then I can scratch in the fertilizer, rake off any leaves, spread it out. So love these little shrub rakes. They work really good, especially when it's hard for you to get down and do that anymore. But good tool to use. Very good one. Did it disconnect?
Oh.
Disconnect?
Nope.
You know what? Okay, because that's weird. You said it disconnected. Okay. Anyway, moving on. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about. We got in our shipment of sweet peas. How are we looking on time though? What's our time?
About 10 minutes.
Okay, so I'm gonna blow through, and I'll show you sweet peas that I'm growing, fertilizing. all my fruit trees, and then pruning a little bit on the fruit trees. And so let's move some of this stuff. I always make a pretty good mess. So let's get the sweet peas. And I did bring over some Annie's Annual stuff too. So let's move some of this stuff so I'm going to put some of this stuff away really quick. And that way, but boy, it was a damp morning. Boy, we're getting that moisture and that dampness. So let's not trample everything. So we're getting in our flowering sweet peas. And so flowering sweet peas, really good varieties. So one of the guys who used to work here, he grows and collects the seeds, and then we get another grower to grow them for us. And these are really good. These are more Spencer types and English heirlooms or heirloom types. So the difference between these and some of the ones that you see around, Spencers and the heirlooms have longer stems, larger flowers, and more fragrant. So a lot of the ones I've always planted seeds of, they short stem and you can't cut them and use them as a cutting flower. But these are really the ones that you want to use for cutting, because they'll produce a stalk, a stem about 4 to 6 inches long, and then the flowers are bigger but very fragrant. So a few of the ones I brought up, Jacqueline Ann, one of my favorites, Allison Louise, another really good one. I do like Mary Priestley, very good white, very fragrant white. You got Just Jenny, another deeper, this is a deeper color, more like a navy blue, darker blue, nice one. You got John Gray, I love this one because it's more of a pale sort of salmony pink, love that one. And Canty is more of a rose lavender white, a little bit mixed, highlights of white through it, so like a rose lavender pinky color, good one. This one is, again, Mary Priestley, good white. And what's this one? This is Aubon Bay, which is more of like an icy blue, which is a good one. The trick with growing flowering sweet peas, you want to put them in full sun. You want 6 to 8 hours of sun. You want to give them a trellis, at least about 5 to 6 feet, about 4 to 6. A lot of times, if you're in a sunny, if it's a sunny location, I still like 6 foot. I can do a netting trellis, or I can do a pot. You know, I can do an 18 to 20 inch pot. I use my old tomato cage. You can use obelisk, but remember, if the trellis is big, like if the metal is big and it's bigger than like your pinky, or if it's really thick metal, wrap it with the netting, because again, these sweet peas are just like the edible sweet peas, netting, because they can climb this netting because it's fine. So anything that's wire or metal that's bigger than a pencil, they have a hard time of wrapping around that. So that's why netting. You know, I've even taken metal arbors and metal obelisks and just wrap them. And then I always zip tie stuff. And that way they'll climb this netting, and then they always will climb up to the sun. And these are day length sensitive, so you want to get them in now. Don't wait, because you want January and February for them to just grow. Then as we start to get longer days and the lengthening days in March, that triggers them to bloom. Now on the coast, they usually will bloom late March, April, May, even June. Farther inland where it's hotter, they might only bloom in March and April. So that's a thing with them. And I don't really worry that too much about the mildew. A lot of people think they'll get mildew, and they really don't. If they do, you can use like an organic sulfur spray, and there's one by Safer that's good. But that's with the sweet peas. And let me go through these. Some of my favorite perennials from Annie's Annuals. Falkia, really cool little ground cover. You have my favorite native, Mimulus, the monkey flower. I love, this is Helichrysum, the straw flower, double white. So all these are from Annie's Annual. I love new perennials. So this is a new strawberry called Ellen. So watch for that one. I love the scabioses that are the giants. So this is the Scabiosa candicans, like the white, which is a giant. Flower stalks will get about 4 to 6. And this is Alba again. I got the Island Snapdragon. That's a cool one. And then the Salvia, which one? Salvia is this is, oh no, this is Plectranthus econii for shade. So love Annie's Annual stuff. So we got a small amount of her shipment, but definitely look through some of her perennials that you can really put in the garden right now that will establish. Because that's the thing with this time of year. When we get cold, stuff is really not pushing a lot of growth because our nights are so cold now But with the colder nights, what happens is it gets stuff to root, establish. It gets our chill hours for our fruit trees because we don't get as much chill. So let's go through and we're going to shift gears again. Oh, I just want to plug these really quick, and then I'll probably talk about these later if you guys come in. We got our bare root strawberries. So favorite variety Seascape. So there's 15 in a bag and they're $6.99. So come in and get the bare roots because the bare roots are really good. Chandler, another good June bearing type, and Sequoia. Sequoia is an early variety that's really sweet. The bigger strawberries can be sweet if you let them ripen on the vine. A lot of the store strawberries are not sweet because they don't let them ripen on the vine. So that's a big thing when you grow your own, so you can mix them up. But I love Seascape Chandler, but you can do 3 different varieties to have a longer harvest out of them. So come in and get the bare root strawberries. We got them in the little refrigerator. And so let's go through, I just want to go through, another thing that I wanted to tell you is we have our early season roses. So these are bare roots that were planted a couple weeks ago in 5-gallon. My favorite variety, they're $69.99. They're 25% off that. And I love Yves Piaget, even though it's hard to see. That's my favorite sort of French Romantica rose. Love that rose. Love Pope John Paul II. That's a good one. I was going to tell you one thing before I forget. Sweet peas right now, we have a sale going on with them. If you buy 2, you get 1 free. So take advantage of that because that's a good deal. I'm gonna buy some, and I do Malibu potting soil in about a 20-inch pot. I put my old tomato cage and I put about 6 or 10 plants around that. Easy, because the wire's thin on those old tomato cages and they climb right up. So that's it. So let me talk about fruit trees now. So with pruning, we're going to bring out the peaches. So this is actually a nectarine. This is a white nectarine, and when you're pruning fruit trees, can you see it though? Want me to move it over more?
Mm-hmm. No, we're all good.
You good right there?
Yeah.
Because I want to get, because this one, the problem with when you're pruning fruit trees, you don't want to just cut them back because then they call them head cuts. When they cut them back, you'll get these branches that will go out. You always want branches to continually going out, and you want the branches sort of spaced out. So if you see like these shoots that are coming up through the middle, like let's just clip this one. I'm going to cut this one right here. Shoot that's coming up the middle. There's another one right here. I don't know if you can see it, but if you get any branches on the interior branches that go straight, they're water sprouts. So take those off. Don't keep those water sprouts. So what I like to do, let's see if I can get a branch that will show me. Here you go right here. Let me turn it. I'm going to turn it around. I don't want to whack myself in the face. But see how like there's so much going on with this. You have a branch underneath. You have another branch. You have a side branch. So what I'll do is I'll cut this branch that's underneath, right? Trim that. I'll take the side one off. I always like when they're split like 2, I take the one that's straighter. So I'll take this outer one out.
UHF is disconnected.
It's saying it's disconnected again. I can still hear it.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is a good branch because it's coming straight out. It's going to branch off that, which is fine. But even this branch right here, it's coming. I'm going to get it to come straight out. But I don't like it when they go straight up, so I'll thin them out. This tree has a pretty good amount of structure to it. But that's the main thing is I don't want to just go through and head cut them. This is nice branch. But see this one on the inside? I'll cut it. This one, any crossing branches, I'll cut them. But I'm always looking to clean up that interior because I don't want the branches pushing, crossing, touching. But even like, I do like them getting up and out. Like even this branch is just going straight up with the leader. This branch right here, I take them off because I want it going up and out. That's the one thing with training stuff is you want them straight and out. Like any under branches, I can start skirting up the lower branches. At least once a year, I'll take off a layer of lower branches. Keeps the fruit off the ground. And with fertilizing these, go through and use a fruit tree fertilizer by Down to Earth. That's my favorite. I'm going to bring over some of the fertilizers before because we're almost running out of time. This is one used for citrus. Even though we're in the quarantine, if you guys have citrus, end of this month, feed them with the Down to Earth citrus food. Give them a little Epsom salts included with that. good source of magnesium. I'm going to move this rose really quick, and I'm going to prune this next, but I want to bring up this apple. Let's move this nectarine, and I'm going to talk about pruning and espalier really quick. The trick with espaliers is you don't want to let them to grow out like a regular tree. Like, see these branches that are coming off the front? I'm going to light clip it, leave about an inch stub, so spurs will come off that. So anything that's coming off the front, I don't want them to grow. So any of these shoots that are coming right off, these are spurring branches, so I want these. But this branch right here, cutting it off, leaving a nub. The reason why I leave about an inch nub, I want spurs to grow around. And spurs are fruit-producing branches that grow really short that will fruit right on the trunk. So down here again, cut that one. They got this one going as like a cordon in a way, like a straight cordon. And sometimes I like where it's flatter and they espaliate more. I'll get more fruit. But it's a good tree. These are Monrovia, Fuji. Very good low chill apple for this area. One thing I want to talk about before I prune the rose, because I know we're running out of time, the copper sprays, the fungicide sprays. So with roses and with fruit trees, I like using liquid cop. Liquid cop is a really good fungicide for rust and mildew and black spot. But again, this will stain white paint. So if you're spraying near a white picket fence or a white house, don't use copper sprays. Use like a sulfur. So that's one thing a long time ago, I sprayed a picket fence and I had to repaint it. So that's one thing is with the copper soap and with the liquid cop, if it's near a white house, a white picket fence, a white wall, don't use it. Use a sulfur. And so with getting so much rain, once they go dormant, they drop all their leaves, when I trim them back, after I trim them back, I will go through and I'll spray them with a copper, spray them with a sulfur. I'll probably do it again in 2 to 3 weeks. Don't do it when they're flowering. Some of these fruit trees will start flowering as early as next month. So that's one thing. So before we go, I want to show you just in pruning. I couldn't really find any regular hybrid teas, so I grabbed a tree rose. With pruning roses, don't prune them hard. The gardeners do it all the time, and you can really, really hurt them. So even if the rose is 4 or 5 feet tall, you might take 2 feet off it. Don't go all the way to the ground. When we get bare root, early season roses in, they're pruned really hard because they're only 2 years old. Don't do that when roses get older. You're just light cutting them back. In fact, if you got a rose, you're really only taking about 1/4 off. I know some people go half. As they get older, they don't flush as much new growth down here in the bottom. So that's one thing that you don't want to do. So even like, see this branch right here, I'm going to take it off. Branch right here, cut. This is too tall. I'm always cutting on a 45-degree angle on an outward facing branch. See how I will have this bud come out. If I cut too close to, that bud can die. Stripping off the leaves too, because even like this one has rust on it. That's a very important thing with roses. I prune roses for a lot of my customers. You got to strip all the leaves off them because these leaves are like harvesting rust. Like, look at the rust on the back of this leaf. I don't know if you guys can see this. Look at the rust on the back of that leaf, because that will drop on the ground, and then the spores will produce fruiting bodies, and we'll get a rain. And so you want to cut that cycle. So, and even if you get these tall shoots, again, trimming, light trim. Again, this is a little shoot, so light trim, stripping those leaves. I usually wear gloves. I'm going to come over here on the other side, and again, I'm going to cut it outward facing leaf right here, about 1 inch above it. Another one, another one, another one, and I'll go around the whole plant. But I'm always trying to look for an outward facing bud. Now, if I don't see an outward facing leaf, I can cut above a thorn too, because thorns will branch. So light trim, but I don't have enough time, but I would strip all this down. And what you do is just wear gloves, and you take and you pull them down. That's how they come off easy. And clean all these leaves up, because look at all the rust, because all the dampness and the moisture. So strip all those down, spray your sulfur, spray your copper, do it in another 2 to 3 weeks, and then you'll help keep the fungal problems down. But the main thing I'm spraying for on roses, spraying for black spot, mildew, and rust. On fruit trees, I'm spraying for peach leaf curl, especially if you had curly leaves last year on your peaches. Once it damages the leaves, can't do anything. So copper spray for your peaches and your nectarines that have peach leaf curl. Okay, and that's I think we're wrapping it up, and so that's it for today. Thank you. This is David Rizzo. Give me your comments. We're going to go to some few questions right now, and if you have any questions, come in the store and see me. I'm usually here every day except Thursday, Fridays. Okay. Thank you for joining me today. Happy gardening. Any questions?
Yeah, there was just one about sweet peas, but you actually answered it. And so if you guys, when we post this on Instagram and Facebook, if you guys want to comment your questions, we can get back to you. And you can also call into the store and ask for any of our horticulture team as well as David. He will be very happy to answer your questions, or anyone on our team.
Okay, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and that's what we're shooting on today. We do our live stream for the checklist of the month the first Saturday of every month. Okay, thank you guys. Happy gardening.